Hello, and welcome to our webinar, our Mobile Viewpoint webinar. So this afternoon, we'll be discussing one of our AI solutions, the vPilot. By way of introduction, my name is Mark Andrews. I'm the Global Sales Manager here at Mobile Viewpoint. And Michelle?
Yes, I'm Michel Wise, Managing Director of Mobile Viewpoint, and I'm here together with Mark today to talk about the vPilot, and actually we go more in detail of the web configuration, so you can see yourself how you can set it up and how you can configure it and how you can use it.
Yes, so just a bit of housekeeping to start with. You'll be pleased to hear that everyone's on mute, so you can make as much noise as you like and no one can hear you, which is good. The plan is for about 10 minutes, I'm going to do a quick PowerPoint presentation just to talk about and give an overview of both Mobile Viewpoint and vPilot. And then after that, the idea is Michelle will then take over and we'll go a little bit more deep and dirty into the administration panel. We have a live system running here, so he'll be basically showing the admin tool and what's under the covers and how you set it up and all that sort of thing as well. The other thing, in Zoom itself, we have a little Q&A box. So I would ask you as we go through, if questions come to mind, feel free to put them in the Q&A box. And at the end, we will address those questions for you. Okay, so let me begin. The first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. Just one moment. There we go. So hopefully everyone can see my PowerPoint presentation. So just to start with a little bit about Mobile Viewpoint for those of you who don't know of us. We're actually innovators in live streaming, specifically for outside broadcast remote production. So we pioneered sort of the mobile backpack, which allows you to connect a camera and basically live stream over the 3G, 4G, and soon to be 5G network. And we bond together those 3G, 4G networks together for reliability, and also pioneers in H.264, H.265 encoding as well. We're based in Alkmaar. That's about 25 kilometers north of Amsterdam. And really more recently, I mentioned the encoding and the live streaming. For the sort of the last year and a half, we've actually been developing new AI platforms, one of which is obviously the vPilot, which we're showing today. And in fact, this whole webinar that you can see is actually being driven by vPilot. And what I plan to do a little bit later is show you a little bit behind the scenes of what we can see in front of us as well. But we also have another AI platform as well, known as IQ Sports Producer, which is basically for people who wanted to create a very professional sports production, but don't have the luxury of a camera team, an on-site camera team, or a director. So again, the AI is pretty much controlling all the cameras. We have resellers and resource all over the world as well. So from wherever you're viewing us today from, I know we have people from all over the world watching our webinars. We probably have local representation where you are as well. In terms of customers, many of the world's leading broadcasters, sports production companies, news production companies, a lot of people doing OB, live events, that sort of thing as well. And what do we do? So the WMT, these are the encoding products that I mentioned, vPilot, which is what we're going to be showing today, and IQ Sports Producer as well. So vPilot, well, what is it? Well, basically, it's an automated studio production system. So here in the office, not a cameraman or camera person, camera lady to be seen. It's all the cameras are driven by AI. And in fact, all the shot selection, again, is driven by AI. So we don't have a local director, but we want to give it sort of that compelling sort of visual experience as well. So the AI selects the shots. And again, Michelle will show you a bit later how you can sort of configure that sort of thing as well. In terms of our customers right now, we have radio stations, for example. Often they'll have a lot of guest speakers coming in. And radio stations, they're often doing web streaming, live streaming to the web, as well as obviously to their radio channel. And often they're out on location as well, where they're interviewing guests as well. They often don't have the resource or the luxury of a camera team, so they're using the vPilot to do all that for them as well. Also, there's sort of lower cost production systems, for example, in broadcasts. Broadcasters are using us for podcasts and that sort of stuff. So when they've got a roundtable discussion, they can have the cameras all set up. And again, they don't need a sort of an expensive camera team behind them as well. And we were doing ISE, which is a trade show in Amsterdam earlier this year, and we talked to a lot of event organizers as well. And often, if you imagine the scene, you have people on a stage, a roundtable discussion, and again, having a professional production system around that to be able to live stream it or push it to social media or wherever you want. Again, it takes the place of any camera team. So it's a great way of creating low-cost professional productions. So in terms of the technology itself, what does it look like? So what we have here is the camera, typically a Ptz camera or an array of Ptz cameras. And we have some scanners as well, 2D, 3D scanners, which actually basically find the people, the talent in the room, so it knows where to point the camera accordingly. And then on site, typically as well, we then have the AI server as well, which is running all the AI algorithms. And then we have the management platform too, which Michelle will show. And then from here, you can live stream either back to a broadcast center where you could create SD, HD, SDI, or if you want to live stream straight to social media, we also have a cloud solution which allows you to do that without the need for a decoder in the broadcast center. So in terms of a schematic, here you can see basically the cameras themselves tend to be SDI connected. And then we have the LAN as well, connecting all the sensors. But what I'm going to do now, Michelle, is switch to our other camera. So I want to give you a bit of a glimpse behind the scenes of what we're looking at. So we're able to have an external camera as part of the system. So there we have Michelle. This is what I'm looking at basically. But if I zoom in a little bit, over here we have the Ptz cameras. So in this particular situation, we have 4. They're actually Panasonic cameras, but any Ptz camera will suffice. But on the top, you can probably see the 3D sensor. So it's the 3D sensor that is picking us out and basically allowing the camera to follow. I also have a 5th camera here. Now, this is just one of those sort of quite cheap sort of webcams as well. But this is giving an overview shot. It's not SDI, it's actually HDMI. But we use an SDI converter on that as well. So it doesn't have to be expensive and can be quite cost effective. And actually, I'm using my own camera here as well. Something we'll talk a little bit about more later, but I'll just show you while it's here. This is it's a Stream Deck device. We call it the V panel. But for the talent, it allows them to basically add overlays, start videos, show pictures, other interviews, that sort of thing. It can all be driven through the V panel as well. So we'll talk a little bit about more of that in detail too. So I'm just going to put the camera back without tripping over it and breaking my neck. That's good. So some of the key features here, it's all about the fact that you can create professional productions, but without the need for camera people. We support up to 7 cameras. We can talk a little bit more later about how many sensors you need. It sort of depends on the side of the room. We've got full integration with a Casper CG engine. And in fact, the next slide allows me to show a little bit of this as well. Perhaps, Michelle, you could talk a bit about the next couple of slides.
Yeah, this is an example of an advanced radio studio. This is a local broadcaster down here that normally at a morning show, a TV program, but due to reducing of cost, they had to move it to another format, and they decided to make a radio show with extras, with guests, but also with a more advanced overlay system. So vPilot in this case controls the overlay, but also the backdrop screens you see behind it. So next to making a program output automatically, vPilot can also control screens and display dynamically content on there. And it's all based on a Casper CG engine, which we actually re-engineered, because I don't know if people know, but the Casper CG is actually a kind of web browser. And it also allows for the upload of JavaScript. So we had to make it secure first before we could integrate it. And actually it allows you to customize quite easily your vPilot system. And on top of having a kind of a standard overlay system that you can customize with JavaScript to do tag lines, we also built in image recognition and voice recognition. And those 2 features allow you to recognize people in the studio based on their face and do a tagline of Michelle is in the house. But also if somebody joins on the phone, you can do voice recognition and do the same thing. Say Mark is on the phone joining us, and then also put a small picture of him with it. So automatically steer the overlay engine to do dynamic overlays, but triggered by image recognition or voice recognition.
Great. So here's the V panel. We've already talked about it already, and we'll have a bit of a close-up view of that later, with some real-life examples. And that's it. So what I'm going to do now is, well, it stopped sharing my screen automatically, which is nice. So what I'm going to do is pass over to Michelle. I'm going to share a different part of my screen now, which will be the administration side. So hopefully you can see the administration side. And Michelle.
Yes, thanks, Mark.
Perhaps you
I
could explain what you're
will
showing here.
go with you into more details. Let's go a little bit over here. So the system, I said, contains about cameras and sensors. And those sensors are indeed 3D sensors. And you can recognize the 3D sensors also from airports, where these days they scan your head. And then depending on your eye and nose distance, they open the gate for you, because they find in your passport you have the same distance. Now, using the same technology, actually, to find people in a studio. And how does it work? Over here, you see our three sensors. And our sensors have, next to a depth sensing image sensor, also a color sensor. And we put them on top of each other. And you see over here the red dots that actually are the detected noses of people with our depth capturing system. And this is actually the basis for the whole system. And our studio have only 3 sensors. You can do more if your studio gets bigger than 7 by 7 meters, or if you have multiple people and not every sensor can see all people, you need more sensors. So this is the basis of the whole system. The next step you normally have to do when you set up the system, and you do this only once when you have a dedicated studio, but if you have a mobile studio, you have to do this every time, is that actually all those 3 sensors have to learn from each other what is the position of my nose compared to each other. So you have to create one room, one X, Y, Z space for controlling. And by pushing on the start calibration button, it takes about a few minutes. After starting this button, you have to walk around in your studio. You will see the calibration bar go up. And the whole time, those sensors are picking your head and measuring you up. And by comparing those measurements, those sensors know from each other where they are in the space. And after a few minutes, it will be 100%. And the system is actually more or less ready to use. If you use it for the first time, of course, you have to do something else still. I will show you. So after the calibration, you have to define the seats in the studio. So what are seats? That actually are the positions of me and Mark in the studio. You can actually recognize our counter over here in this 3D imaging plot. And what you actually have to do, you are alone in the studio, and you go to stand on the location of a speaker, and you press pin on the current head, and then the system knows at which location there is a seat. And you do that for all the positions in the studio. At the moment, you see myself. When I walk out of this square, you will see it will lose. You see my head walking out. It will also turn from gray into from green into gray, indicating the seat is low, and you will not see any shots of me anymore because I did run out of the right position. You still see the circle inside, indicating that I am talking.
And also, if you saw the video, it moved to an overview shot because it's thinking, oh, Michelle's disappeared. I need to move to an overview shot. Or if I start to talk, then obviously it will move to me.
And actually, with those sliders, you can actually change the size of the seat. And this is, for example, very interesting if you don't use a studio but want to, for example, do in school. You saw actually right away the shot, strangely happening. Yeah. But this is something you use if you, for example, have another type of studio, a round table. But also if you want to do something for a classroom. So you can define a very long seat in front of the classroom, and then the camera automatically will follow the teacher. Interesting these days of the e-learning, I would say. After the seats, then you get to the cameras. So as said again, you do this only once, mobile or fixed, because the amount of cameras will not change that much, I expect. You see we have 4 Ptz cameras, you see the first 4, and then we have 2 static cameras, which are actually the hand cam Mark used over here. And this is actually the overview camera, is also a static camera, which means it doesn't have any Ptz control, but you can still get switched to those cameras based on the AI and the audio controls we will show later on. Now, for every camera, you have to indicate which type of camera it is. You can choose actually between 2 sets. It's a Panasonic, or it is a Visca over IP camera. So as said, we support, I think, 99% of all available Ptz cameras, as long as they support Visca over IP for the Ptz. And then the only thing you have to do over here is set the range of the camera, so how many degrees it can do. And if you don't know it, we can actually calibrate automatically. We just control the camera left until it stops, and then we know the maximum amount of degrees it can do, left or right. So then you go to the camera calibration. It sounds difficult, but it isn't. What you actually tell over here is what is the position of every camera compared to a sensor. Now, in our case, we combine the sensors and the camera on one tripod. So actually, the camera is just 26 centimeters below the sensor, so it's very easy. But if you put this fixed in a camera, in a studio, I mean, then of course you have to do a more careful measurements. What is the X and the Y offset compared to your sensors? But as said, if you do it all together, it is actually very easy. And actually, you do it only once.
And also, you don't need a sensor for every camera, do you, Michelle?
No. In this case, we have 5 cameras and 3 sensors. But this is a very small room, so we could have done it with 2, but we just want to show the capabilities of 3 sensors. But yeah, such a small room as we are in, 2 sensors is more than enough.
Yep.
So, okay, sorry. And then we go to the shots configuration. And now we get into the setup that you actually, we think you need the director or somebody who has director experience. Over here, you're going to define per seat in the room which type of shot you want to have. So I will go to an example over here. This is a shot of myself. So you see over here, actually the camera is pointing on my nose and it knows what is the deviation. So over here I tell what is the shot will be compared to my nose. So if I go to this, you will see the shot will change. And so I can put it back. You can do a pan, tilt and zoom over here settings. So over here, you can also press test shot and then you can see the shot. Actually over here you tell the system compared to my nose what should be the real shot. And you can do this for all seats, also for Mark, but you can also do it for seats of us together. So over here we have a total overview that you can also set up actually, and by just pressing the buttons. So you should define an X amount of shots. The rule of thumb is to at least 2 per seat and 2 or 3 overview shots, but don't do many more because otherwise people really get puzzled at home if you switch between all those shots the whole time. But a director can tell you how to do this because that is his profession. Then we get a little bit in how is the AI notified of who is talking and who's interesting. Now the AI can do a lot of things. It can of course see if your mouth is moving, but we also use of course the very basic input, that's audio. So we measure really the audio levels of the people in the studio. And what we measure is the minimum amount of volume people produce. So this indicates when somebody's talking louder than 25 or 100, then we know it's a talking person. And we also do a stop talking delay. So when do we see somebody not talking? Now, if in this case, if he is not talking for 700 milliseconds, we decide he's not talking anymore. So we can move away. And we also have an attack time and a release time. And the attack time and the release time is more that you also define a time before you really say somebody is talking. Not only levels, but also time. And this combination enables you to create the right settings for your shots and for the director to make changes between shots. It sounds perhaps a little bit difficult, but if you play around with it, you note and immediately see what is the result of changing those parameters. Over here, we have the director config. So the previous one was more telling how the audio is captured and how it is signaled to the director what to do with it. And over here, you're really going to configure the directory basics with the AI can use to really do something. And we have 2 buttons. One is automatic, and automatic is a bit the wrong term, but in this case, we just use some settings we thought of. And in the manual setting, you can define your own settings. And how does it work? Over here, you select the audio of the seat. So in this case, the audio input for the guy who's to the wall, that's myself. And then over here, you see there are 2 shots defined for me talking. And per shot, you can now define a few settings. The first one is the relevance. The relevance is now over here 0, but you can set it on a value between 1 and 10. And it is made for presenters. So if I'm the presenter, I give myself a higher value over here than my guests. So if you think about a round table discussion, it enables you to close a discussion. So okay, thank you for your comments. And the conclusion is, and then the camera goes to you directly because you have a higher priority than your guests who perhaps keep on talking and want to hijack the discussion. Then again, you have here over here the attack time and also the release time again. So what is the time it takes to really let this shot go? and also when how much time it can take before you put the shot really live on air. And then over here we have another timing, and it defines the time a shot must take at least. So the minimum time is actually the minimum time a shot is taken no matter what. So if I stop talking and I was only 1 second, and it will stay for 1 second on myself. And over here you give the maximum time. So in this case, the maximum time shown of a shot is 8 seconds, and the minimum time is 5. And then the AI is going to vary between those figures if I keep on talking, and then makes it based on other figures an interesting shot before he switch over to another shot if I keep on talking, or if Mark starts talking in our case. So you will see you can define this for all the audio inputs all together. So now I have defined both the audio of Mark and myself. Then we see there are 2 overview shots defined, which I can also configure again. And those figures sound a little bit academic or perhaps mathematic, but if you start playing around with those, and also with the help of somebody with director knowledge, you will see how it helps to customize your whole experience of the vPilot. Then we go to the overlays tab. Over here you can actually create a very basic overlay. I will show you how to do it. So I can upload JPEGs or PNGs, and I can just put them on the screen, and then I say apply overlay, and the next thing you will see is the overlay is created. So this is a very easy way for you to put your logo on top, or whatever you think of. And I can also, of course, clear the overlay again. So now it's removed. This is basic. We also have the advanced overlay, already previously talked about it. It is based on HTML. So over here, you can upload actually HTML files with JavaScript that actually can drag information from RSS feeds and then make, for example, a ticker tape or present the weather or whatever you want to do. It's totally up to you. It's all HTML, JavaScript, and actually every web designer can make it. And we will provide you, of course, with examples to alter for your own purpose, but this is more the advanced part of it. So this, you can create really dynamic overlays.
So it could, dynamic and real time, so showing something.
Actually, the radio example you did see use this, and actually also control you can also control over here also the backdrop screen. So you can tell the system what to show on your alternative video outputs. So you can actually create an overlay per output of the system.
Okay.
Now over here is the media tab. Now over here it looks a little bit empty, but that's what it is. Over here you upload your video file. So at this position you upload all your MP4 files you want the talent to be able to play during the broadcast. I can show you an example. So over here now I'm playing one of the videos we uploaded. Is an example of our automatic sport production system. So that's how your talent is gets the videos on his control panel. They upload it from this website, which somebody can do from home even. Persons. This is another part of the AI. This is the image recognition part. So over here you can upload pictures from people who will be in your studio, and you should do at least 20 pictures, and not all the same, but actually different pictures in different situations. And then the system can then put an overlay and tag you defined over here on top of your video based on the people you recognize in the video. Over here we have the advanced settings, which is actually more the default configuration of the system. If you don't set anything, this will be the settings used for making of the shots, attack times, etc. But yeah, we recommend really to do it yourself and not use those static settings. This is our video matrix of the system. So what you see over here are actually thumbnails of all the cameras and actually the program and the preview. And this is used really to see to help to mainly control the system. So for example, I can now, if I push this one, then you get this defined shot, and I can also put it back on automatic. And at the moment, moving thumbnails, because this enables you to see this web interface remotely on internet lines with low bandwidth. But we also get a version that is our real moving videos based on WebRTC, and then you get really a live moving matrix. And actually also you can control the Ptz cameras, so you can also remotely change the Ptz settings of the cameras when you are in the manual mode. Now we get the director autonomy, and actually this is the position where you can see what the system is doing. Over here it displays all its decisions. So over here you can read which decision the director took and why it didn't take. For example, it doesn't switch to a new shot because you see here a new shot live after 2.3 seconds. So you know the minimum time was 2 seconds, so at 2.3 it made live. And so you can see all the decisions. Okay, over here the talker was not in view. I stepped out of my box probably, and then the system, although you're talking, you won't get a shot. So over here you can see what is the output of the director, and you can also see why things happening. Because I can tell you, when the first time you configure the system, you will see shots, you think, okay, why? And then over here you can see why the system took the decision. Which parameter of your configuration was the reason of this shot. And this helps you to actually to debug or to set to configure your own director settings.
So you're looking at the brain of the AI.
Yeah, you're looking at the brain of the AI. And because it is AI, sometimes things will stay a little bit vague, but that's the beauty of the system, we think. But it will help you at least to set your timings right. So this is the overview system again.
Fantastic. Well, what we could do now, Michel, if we stop the share and then
yeah,
maybe
you can
we
do
a close-up of the vPanel, because I think the vPanel here, so the whole point of the vPanel, if I just put on the external camera, is that the talent themselves can do all the control. So you're not relying on an external producer or director.
So what I can show you that I actually can manually go between cams. So this is something that perhaps a talent will not use that much. But what he will use, of course, is that he can use, wait a minute, this is presets, overlays. So over here, you can actually control, you can actually start to play the video, as you should see now. I'll stop it again. Pause, stop. So you also have here, you have a stop button, you have a play button. If I press play again, you will see it, and I can pause it, play it again, and I can actually stop it. So this enables the talent to play an item when discussing about it in, for example, a news program, but also when you have a talk show. Other settings we have is the director setting. So I'm now in manual mode, as you can see, and if I go back to automatic mode, you will see, based on the audio triggers and all the AI triggers, we get back. So you can also, wait a minute, I will go back to the camera. Up 6, play. So we're back to the camera. What I also want to show you is that we have the possibility to set fixed on a seat. So this also makes it possible for you as a host of a talk show to put the camera on you and not on the guest anymore when, for example, a guest tries to hijack the system.
Excellent.
So, and this whole panel is configurable via the web interface. I did not show it today because it's a little bit more technical detailed, but as said, this enables you to actually upload your content, but also define the whole setup of the display. And things you can set is shots, you can set the seats, you can define where the content gets you want to play, and you can define overlays.
Excellent. Well, what I suggest now, if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to fill in the Q&A box. One of the overlays we do have is actually our email address, Michel, if I don't know if you can find it.
Yeah, I can put that overlay on top. Yes, definitely. Yeah, over here. This is the overlay of the... Oh, sorry. Oh.
Unfortunately, we're not talent, but we do our best. There we go. So in the top right-hand corner, that's our email address. So what I will say is if you've got any questions, follow-up opportunities, projects, and you're keen to talk with us, we'd be more than happy to discuss them with you. So sales@mobileviewpoint.com with your questions, inquiries, or if you need pricing information, or we can refer you to a local reseller if you're from wherever you are, really. So in terms of Q&A, how many cameras can we support with one system?
Now, the system is available in different flavors. The maximum is 24, so 24 SDI sources or outputs. So you can configure every SDI connector as an input or an output. So in 24, you can actually do 23 inputs and 1 output. But most people you see using that big systems, they want to do multiple screens on the background, actually want to control the whole background of a studio. So most of the outputs are used to control screens. And the minimum size is 4, and then everything in between. And then, as said, we are mainly supporting SDI at the moment. We can also do NDI, but we are in favor of SDI because there's a lot of those cameras available. So we also emphasize that people can use their existing Ptz cameras. You don't have to buy new cameras or cameras from us. We don't want to sell you to those. You can just use your existing Ptz cameras most time and actually just make your existing studio, which you normally control with a joystick, now fully automatic. as I said, so SDI, and of course via converters, we can also support HDMI cameras as we have over here. And yeah, so the limit, there is a limit in cameras, but then it's a huge amount.
So at the moment we've got Panasonic, but we have the Avonic cameras, which is a very low cost alternative.
Yeah, and everything in between.
Yeah.
So the Avonic is a Chinese manufactured camera, and that provides, we think, for the money a very good quality, and especially for radio type of broadcast, it is more than fine. If you really want to go on live on TV screens, then we recommend to take a little bit more, higher level cameras.
Okay. Is there a charge for the camera integration?
No, it depends a bit. If you just have a standard Visca over IP camera and there isn't some awkward detail which is not totally compliant, we will fix it, of course, free of charge if you buy a system. If you have a total different camera, yeah, then of course it takes a lot of time. But if you just have a camera that is close to the standard, you can of course fix the small issues if they are there.
Sure. In a studio environment, I've got cameras in those up in the ceiling, I assume. Do the scanners need to be with the cameras?
No. As said, that if you are mobile, we recommend to do it, because then you put up your tripod, you put the camera and the sensor in one bracket on top, and then you can go very quickly to the configuration. If you have a fixed studio, don't do it. Just put the sensors on close to the ceiling, so they shine down. They actually look down on the person in the studio, and just put the cameras wherever you want. But only you have to measure them, so the configuration is then a little bit more work. But that's the best thing to do then.
Okay. I'm working in a mobile setup. How long do you estimate to set up and configure everything so it's working?
Yeah, I did already several trade shows with it, and then every morning you have to do it again, and then it's 5 minutes. So if you're used to it, it's 5 minutes. But the first times, yeah, of course, it takes a bit more time. You have to get used to it. But I think it's very easy.
Yeah, and it all packs down into the back of a car as well, so it can be quite mobile. Just depends on your situation as well. Okay, well,
the audio question. Yeah, the audio. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
We didn't touch on that. Sorry. The audio can be analog, so the system can support 8 analog audio inputs. But by default, we see people offering us Dante or Avena or AIS67 inputs. We can support those. So, and then you can also have many audio channels going into the system. And actually, our system supports all those audio over IP protocols. So we don't mind, actually. It's up to you. Over here, we're using Dante, I think, at the moment, with Dante converters. So we're putting the analog audio into Dante, and then we go into the vPilot.
Okay. Can you tell about social media integration, like comments on Facebook or YouTube?
Yeah, you can of course send the video directly to social media via using our link matrix platform. But I don't know if that is what is meant, like comments on FB or YouTube.
Like comments?
The audio overlaying, so commentary on videos.
Yeah.
It can be done, of course, yes. Then you can use our link matrix again via the link mix feature just to add the audio to your video stream, yes.
And we do have a feature in link matrix called Clipper as well.
Yeah.
So quite often for social media, if there's particular clips, you have a live stream going out and you want to set the last 5-second clip, you want to, oh, that's a good quotation. I want to push that up to social media. Then you can do that as well using our Clipper technology. So just for your information, Link Matrix is our management platform. It's free. We provide it with a solution, but it basically allows you to manage all the devices out there remotely. Okay, there's a question. So I'm going to move to the chat box. I see someone's asked a question in chat, I believe. Just give me a second. This is where Zoom is not working as well. Here we go. Oh, great presentation. Thank you so much, James. James is with CP Communications in the US. They're our distributor in the US. And I think we've done most of the questions. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Fantastic. So what I would like to say is thank you everyone for attending. We do have quite a few more webinars coming up over the coming weeks, and we're also trying to make them sort of educational as well, not just necessarily a product pitch. So we've got some webinars coming up where we talk about 5G and the impact that's going to have on the media and broadcast space. A little bit more, some more webinars on AI, intelligence, and that sort of stuff. So, you know, please look on our website, but we will also follow up with an email and a link of today's session as well. But if you do have questions, feel free to respond, or the email I sent earlier, sales@mobileviewpoint.com. We would love to hear from you. And I think on that note, we are done. Is there any more questions?
Yeah, how much bandwidth required to operate is a question. Of course, the system is local, so SDI is an enormous bandwidth. But the output of the system is an IP stream, and you can set SDI or an IP stream. SDI is of course clear, but if you want to do a direct IP stream out of the system, yeah, then you can choose the bandwidth yourself. The maximum is 20 megabits, but that should be more than enough.
Yeah, for web streaming, it's quite a lot, but
yeah, and for TV, of course, you connect SDI right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for attending. Please stay safe. Keep an eye out for, another question. Any recording option?
Yes, the system is also able to record. Yes, it's not in the current version of the software, but in the future release, it will also record all the inputs.
Great. I think we're done. No more questions. Everyone's dying to go off and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. I know I am. So on that note, I will thank you all again for coming. Please stay safe out there. And until next time, we'll see you again soon. Thank you so much.